Yeah, go
Andrew, what
ahead.
did you do this weekend?
What did I do this weekend? I went paddleboarding.
Ooh,
In
where do you
in
live?
I live in Long Beach.
Long Beach,
Yeah,
California.
yeah, Long Beach, California. Is
I
it?
live in Long Beach, New York.
Whoa. I
Oh,
live in Long Beach, Colorado.
there's no there's
Funny,
no
funny.
beaches
Now
in
you're left
Colorado.
out. Brad just wanted to be a part of the
I know, right?
conversation.
That's
Um,
funny.
I have a funny story about a job many years ago that I interviewed for, and they wanted me to be local to California. And I was very clear that I live in New York, but as it went up the reins and people started seeing my resume or had conversations with me, somehow it got translated that I lived in Long Beach, California.
That's so
So,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so you
just
went
to clear.
paddleboarding. It's still too cold for us to paddleboard, but
Oh
I'll
no,
live vicariously
it
through
was
you.
warm. I went paddleboarding. I went all the way around Naples Island. Like it was fun.
Ooh,
Try
that's
not to get run over
glorious.
by a speedboat, right? I saw Project Hail Mary. That was a good movie.
Oh,
Would you
so
recommend it?
good. It was so
I mean, I
good.
haven't seen it. It was good.
It was really
I mean,
good.
it's hard to get to movies when you have kids, right? Like we were just talking
Yeah.
about you having two boys. I have a 5 year
Yeah.
old. We barely get to go to movies, but when we do, we go see like these long, really epic films. Like we saw Wicked and then Project Hail Mary. Project
Right.
Hail
Because
Mary
you're
was
like,
so
we
good.
have time. We're going to do
Uh,
it. Yeah, no. I notoriously fall asleep in every movie.
mm,
Like, even the loud, really engaging ones, it is no, it actually does not speak to the quality of the film at all. But like,
right.
put me
Just
in a
your level
dark
of
room with
exhaustion
snacks.
Hmm.
and reclining chairs.
Yeah,
Yes.
just
Exactly.
like a lot of sugar in the beginning. Like
Uh,
Exactly.
I crush a Sour Patch watermelon like bag before the
My
movie's ever
kids,
started.
my kids love that. I'm a chocolate girl. I'm not a candy girl. Doesn't do it
yeah.
for me.
This would
Well,
be super
chocolate is
dark
a form of
chocolate.
candy. This
If it's
Yeah,
not
chocolate.
chocolate,
but
it's not dessert. That's
Well,
what I
chocolate.
say.
it's not like confection, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like super high refined sugars. Like especially if you get like the 70-80% dark chocolate. Mm.
Yeah, that makes me, that's like what I keep in the cupboard. That's my like nighttime, like, doo, 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 doo. But like at the movies, all bets are off. It's refined sugar to the nth degree. It's like
Oh yeah,
mini
Hershey's.
butter fingers and like bunch of crunch. It's disgusting. It's totally
Yeah,
vile, but
yeah.
I'm
Good
here
for
Well,
you.
for it.
they know. They know. That's why they do it. They're
Totally.
like,
You also said you're working out like 4 to 6 days a week, so I think you're good to indulge every once in a while for sure.
I work out so I can eat. Some people work out so they're skinny. I work out so I can eat. I think that's like
There you
kind
go.
of a stoner philosophy as well, potentially.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
like, yeah, like, and if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it also doesn't happen. That's like, it like has to happen, or it's like, I'll come up with
yeah.
a reason to
Yep.
avoid it.
We always like to smoke a fat ass joint right before a movie. So like Project Hail Mary was perfect for that. I did the same for Wicked. And luckily my wife didn't fall asleep in those movies, but like typically she will fall asleep in any movie that is actiony and loud and like a lot going on. But if you show her like a slow British drama, she's there for, I mean, she could
She's
watch
like,
10 episodes of The Crown and I will fall asleep in 15 seconds. Like it's just, I can't, yeah, it's
different
right.
strokes for different
And
folks,
I love slow British drama. I really do. But it's just if it's at night and we put on like we try to watch The Crown and I could not ever get through the first few
Oh no,
episodes. So
my kids know. Like I have shows that I watch with each of them. So I'm watching Stranger Things with one of them, and I'm
yes.
watching Big Bang Theory with another one. So
Mhm.
like I have my shows with each of them, and they'll be like, "You awake? You awake?"
You're still awake, right, Mom?
And I'm like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh," like underneath the blanket.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, y'all. Well,
Yeah.
I think we have given everybody enough time to get in so we can kick this thing off. But if you have been following along so far and you've seen either Project Hail Mary or Wicked or want to talk about any movies, feel free to drop in the chat. We like to keep our chat lively. And for whatever it's worth, that's something you should do throughout this entire webinar. If we say stuff you disagree with, let us know in the chat. Let's start an argument. We don't care. It'll be fun. It'll be constructive. But yeah, I do want you guys to feel welcome to get involved. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and give you guys a real quick rundown of what we're here to talk about today. So, very excited. Today we get to have Beryl Jackowitz on. Beryl is just such a force to be reckoned with. She is the national buyer and merchant for The Botanist. which is an 11-door retailer across 3 states. And she's just got a wonderful background when it comes to understanding buying, the role of merchandising. She comes from traditional retail as well as has been involved in the cannabis industry for quite some time. So very excited to have Beryl on. We're going to learn a lot from her today about what it's like to buy in her position and what are the things that she cares about and thinks about and keep her up at night as it relates to being really, really solid at buying. But before we do, some of you may be here for the first time and have no idea who Happy Cabbage is. If you have been here for many of our webinars, you know how this is going to run. But I actually don't work from a script every time I do this, so it might be a little different. Happy Cabbage helps retailers stock what sells. We do this through a platform we built called Happy Buyers. And Happy Buyers is like a work of obsession around what buyers are dealing with. The reason why we are obsessed about what buyers are dealing with is because inventory quite literally is the largest investment a retailer makes. It is the largest cash flow problem in cannabis, is retail inventory. And a lot of people aren't actually able to see that. And the reason they aren't able to see that is because of spreadsheets, which we are going to do our damnedest to get you out of. So Happy Buyers will help you do your job, help you do it quickly, accurately, and better than you could possibly imagine you're doing right now, even with a really kick-ass spreadsheet. And when we're helping you with your accuracy, with your reordering, with your budgeting and menu planning, what we're really doing is fine-tuning all of your inventory decisions so that we can help you save cash flow. Right now, we're in an economic climate for the cannabis industry that just does not lend itself to profitability. So you have to scratch profit out of all of the decisions you're making, your efficiencies, your reordering decisions, right? So we find that for you, and to the tune of $150,000 over 3 months. Every single retailer we work with, on average, is dealing with at least $50,000 a month in overstocked inventory or aged inventory, and they're not seeing it necessarily all the time because spreadsheets just have a hard time showing you the most accurate data. You're not running the exact algorithms that we're able to run using AI. And we can surface those insights for you and save you 10 hours a week on average as well that you're currently spending crunching those numbers in your spreadsheets. We also help you get your days of supply on hand reduced by 40% to 17, or by 17 days. Most people are sitting with about 57 days of supply on hand. So we're trying to get you down to that 30 or below mark. We get a total reduction in your SKUs of 11%, 14% reduction in your slow moving SKUs. So this is where that money is being freed up from, is in these numbers here, as well as other little decisions like phantom out of stocks, which we can get into. We have a lot of really great customers who love what we do and actually go out to events and proselytize on our behalf. We do not pay them to do this. We do not pay Beryl to be here, right? But she's going to tell you about her experience working with us because of how we've been able to help her improve buying at her stores, as well as all of these different retailers and more that you see here. Please reach out to any of these buyers or people at these stores and just ask them what they think about us, because I can guarantee you, with the impact we've made, they've got good things to share, and they can tell you exactly how they are implementing this software solution. If you are on these 4 major POSs, good news, you can work with us. We are integrated, and we are currently still building out a further integration with Meadow, but there is some stuff we can still do with you if you are on Meadow. So these are the major POSs in the industry. These are the ones that we connect with and work with. And if you are on them, you can come check out Happy Buyers for free. So we'll give you a 14-day free trial. You can use your live store data during that 14-day free trial. So you'll actually make orders. You'll actually save money within the first 2 weeks without paying us a dime. You may even save the annual subscription fee on our software in the 14 days or more. We often see that, especially with people who are engaged in our trials. So don't take our word for it. Don't even take Beryl's word for it. Come check us out yourself. And if you don't like it after 14 days, we can shake hands and say, cool, no worries. Good luck. And if you don't want to get that far down the line and you just want to assess your damage, we can give you a free inventory audit where we run your data through our platform's algorithms to determine what your overall inventory health looks like. This is a key feature of our platform. So if you're on Happy Buyers, you see your inventory health updated hourly, but we can give you a snapshot and say, you right now have $189,000 you could save today if you just got rid of some aging inventory, stopped reordering this overstock stuff that doesn't move, keep your discount percentage a little bit, better managed, and understand where your margins are. So come get that for free. If you are already convinced, come check us out on the 14-day free trial. If you just want to take a look at it, go to our website and you can get a demo. At the last 15 minutes of this webinar, we are going to do a Q&A session. So at any point in time, you can ask questions using the little question mark down at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. That question mark is where you can submit questions in the Q&A, but you can also just do it within the chat. We're not picky. We'll take the questions however they come. And again, like I said, be lively in the chat. If you disagree, if you have some thoughts, if you want to share your own insights or whatever, do them in the chat. I'll be there working with you. I'm glad, Robin, that we've already entertained you with our banter. Hopefully, we'll keep it that entertaining going through. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it off to Andrew and Beryl to entertain you with buying insights.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Hey, Beryl. How's it going?
Hey, Andrew.
So, love to kick off this. We like to kick off these kind of conversations, just like first understanding your background, right? Like, obviously, you have the traditional retail background, which, not a lot of folks in the buying role in cannabis have. So, I'm just super interested in just like understanding, like, where you came from, what your experience is, and like, a little bit about, yeah, like how you became what you are now today.
Yeah, totally. So I started career in fashion. And really, I consider so lots of brands that I'm sure people have heard of: Kate Spade, Alexis Patar, Theory, Jack Spade. Give a little men's brand shout out there. But essentially, yeah, exactly, very fancy. My sweet spot is, how do you get the right product to the right place at the right time? And that sounds pretty straightforward, but there are so many things that influence it. So I say, that one of the things that makes me talented at what I do is the ability to see, the details, but then also be able to see sort of the 10,000 foot view. And so I spent probably 15 years, different roles, different fashion companies, but ultimately, again, how do you get the right product to the right place at the right time? Because if any of those three are off, you won't sell what you need or want to sell at retail. I had my own sort of like, I guess, reintroduction to cannabis in my 30s. And I felt like it was not treated like, well, we all know that, right? If we're in the industry, it was not treated like any other product. And so therefore, I felt there was an opportunity, bringing what I knew from, meanwhile, my team's message is like, everyone's like, what about this, Beryl? I'm like, guys, I'm busy. Get out of here. Like, meanwhile, I should write back, hey, join my webinar, and then, or not so say webinar, join my pod, and then I'll answer your questions later. Sorry. The pod. So I thought there was an opportunity to treat cannabis more similar. Well, and I actually started pre-legalization of cannabis in New York. I thought CBD was sort of the gateway to bring your average customer to cannabis, even if they weren't ready for the concept of getting high. This is about 10 years ago. I still think my thesis was right, but maybe I was too early. So I was an entrepreneur. I started my own brand, really a marketplace selling what started as CBD, then hemp-derived THC. And I'm still in the queue in New York, and like, you know what? I don't want to wait around. I don't want to sit on the sidelines. I believe in this industry. I believe in the magic of this plant, and I know how to get the right product to the right place at the right time. So I'll go find a job with an MSO and see what I can learn. And that's essentially what I did. I mean, I didn't really know what the buyer role in cannabis looked like. I applied for this job with the Botanist, and I guess almost 2 years later, here I am. I started as buying for one state, moved into buying for multi-states. Now I buy for our whole retail platform. I'm actually hiring some buyers to work for me. So that's a little, anyone on this call feel like they want to deal with this all the time, bring it on. Let's do it. The roles are posted on LinkedIn. But yeah, I think that so interesting to see both the differences and the similarities in both the differences and similarities between sort of traditional retail and cannabis, which I'm sure is what we'll sort of talk about.
Yeah, like so to that point, right? What do you think is one of the most major differences between the buying role, the purchasing role, the purchasing function, really, between how you were dealing with it with traditional luxury brands versus like how we're doing it in cannabis? That in particular, you believe that most cannabis people or most cannabis organizations like just don't realize.
I mean, and maybe this is tooting my own horn, but I think that cannabis views the buyer role as a very junior sort of check the box responsibility. And you come into an organization, you buy for a year or so, you get promoted, and you do something else. Where in fashion, I mean, the buying office is the heartbeat of everything, right? Again, it is a retail organization, where in cannabis, it's oftentimes not a specific retail organization. Potentially, it's retail and production and wholesale and all of these other things. But from where I sit, in terms of the retail organization, I think I think the cannabis industry looks at buying in a much more rudimentary and sort of basic way than it should be. And as the industry evolves and matures, I think we will see an evolution of a buying organization. Does it include planning? Does it include merchandising? Or are you just reordering things? Right. So I think there's just a difference in how it's viewed, in the industry. Um, Therefore, what are the tools and what is the training, and how do you move up and
What's up from
understand how to
here?
do those things, right? Like they obviously go hand in hand. And then the other issue, though, that I would be remiss to not state, which is that it is a plant, right? And like when you are selling a handbag, there are lots of steps that need to happen, but one of those steps is not actually waiting for a plant to come out of the ground and blossom and flower and dry and cure and all of those things, right? Like, so there are differences. And sometimes I get feedback like, oh, well, you're overshadowing the differences. There's certainly differences, but I think it's more similar than different.
Yeah.
And I think we are able to take some of the lessons from traditional retail. Cannabis would be better off.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like there are differences, but at the same time it's not like we're shipping it from manufactured in Vietnam. It has to be in a cargo container. It has to sit at a port for like 2 months. You have to deal with a customs office. You got to pay a tariff.
Yep.
Like, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, okay, so instead it's you got to grow, you got to package, you got to manufacture, you got to process. But at the end of the
Totally.
day, to your point, like it is retail, right? And, it's 50% of all the money you're spending is inventory, right?
At
You know what
least.
I mean?
Only if you
If
use
you're
a
doing
good
it
tool.
well.
Otherwise you're spending way more. I mean, yeah, and I mean it's one of your biggest line items, like on your P&L, right? Your
Yeah.
inventory. And so whether if you are a retail organization, that is going to make or break your strategy, your cash flow, your relationships, like all of it, right? That's where the
Yeah.
rubber hits the road.
And I just think it's super interesting, like the commentary on like we don't staff it that way. We don't resource it that way. We don't invest in it that way. Right? Like, I think in our previous convo, you were mentioning something like, it's an executive function
Yeah.
in retail. Like purchasing is
Yeah.
an executive function, whereas here it's, the senior bud tender, right? Like in
Yeah.
certain
And
ways.
sometimes people do that in addition to many other things that they do, right? It's one of the
Mhm.
many hats that they wear. And again, that's not to say you can't wear many hats, but to to do this job well and to oversee the millions of dollars of inventory that you're bringing in and pushing out and bringing in and pushing out, it is a sophisticated function that needs sophisticated tools, that needs people that understand retail and understand how to move it. And it's just so fundamentally connected to the other parts of the business too, right? Where maybe there are some parts of the business that can live in a silo, right? Like does the head grower need to understand marketing? Probably not, right? Their goal is to grow fire product that's going to sell, like that. They're fully focused on that.
Yeah.
Whereas a buyer, you have to understand what's happening with finance, right, whether it's AP or AR, what's happening with marketing, what's happening with store ops. Like there's
Mhm.
so many tentacles. And again, if you just sort of give this to some, junior person that doesn't understand they may be able to reorder into what sells. That is not hard, but that's not going to enable your retail to grow
Yeah.
or, build customer loyalty, get people to come back, et cetera, et cetera. It's
Yeah.
just not going to happen.
Why do you think we ended up in this situation in cannabis? Because you're right, like it is super fundamental. Like it's a very basic fundamental part of retail. Um, and
I think
like
I think if you look back at how this industry was created, it's the advocates and it's the growers and it's the lovers of the plant. And with no disrespect to those people, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are, right, without the Charlotte Webbs of the world, right? Like the people that started growing in California. I mean, the list goes on and on, but at the end of the day, those folks weren't retailers. And so I still think the history of where the industry came from and who started it, right? They were not retailers. And on the one hand, that's a beautiful thing because it wasn't
mhm.
started to be a retail product. It was started to be medicine. And how do you get this medicine to all of these people, right? And access and price, all of the things, and not putting people in jail, right? There are so many layers. And that's the beautiful, one of the many beautiful, amazing parts of this industry. But because of that, I still think many organizations, not all, sort of treat retail as this afterthought or not the core base of what they're doing. I think it's changing. I think more organizations are
Realize.
deciding, and
Yeah.
we see it, right? Where people are sort of like, ooh, I'm going to sell off the manufacturing part in this state and I'm only going to own retail. Like we see that happening. And I do think the change is out there. But historically, those that led the industry were not retailers. And so now here we are, where we are trying to sell to everyone, which means we can't rely on a toolkit that wasn't based on that premise, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
we need to shift the expectation if we want everybody to walk in and find something that they want to buy.
Yeah, 100%. So actually, so to that point, let's shift a little bit gears and talk a little bit about that buying strategy stuff because I think you have very nuanced perspective on it. To your point, like it's not just a matter of like straight reorder, like what the thing said. Everything ran out of stock. Just go in the back room, figure out what you're out of, and just reorder that, right? Like, what do you see as some like big opportunities in buying, purchasing, or merchandising strategy that like you're excited about as the industry is becoming more sophisticated on the retail side?
So this may be controversial, but I'm going to go for it anyways. Every single menu is overskewed. I think we offer way too many products. I think it's confusing to the customer. I think no matter how talented your bud tenders are, it's just fundamentally the way that we create what we put on our shelves is for connoisseurs, not for everyone. And in any retail environment, if you try to be everything to everyone, you fail everyone. And I think as retailers in cannabis, we try to be everything to everyone. And that oftentimes translates to, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have something for your various avatars of customers, right? Like I get it. You're going to service multiple customers. They may be different based on the vibe of your store, the location, etc. But at its core, I am excited for the day that there is a beverage vending machine, right? Where you don't have to go, and beverages are their own sore subject. I'm not going to get into the hemp conversation necessarily unless you force me to. But let's, whatever, hemp beverage, cannabis beverage,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
doesn't matter. But the point is, like, there should be a world in which there's a beverage depot, right? Like we have a beverage barn, right? You go in and you take the
Yeah,
cases and
exactly.
you, right? Like, or there should also be like, I want to be able to go. I know that I just want a gummy. Like I don't, and how many gummies do you need? Right. Like, and I think it's hard because then you're talking to people on the brand side that are trying to tell you, oh, well, we now are relying on this minor cannabinoid or we're leveraging this or whatever the story may be. But like, do you already have something that fits that slot? And do you need multiple? Maybe you need two, but you don't need seven. Like,
Mhm.
or 17 maybe is even more to the point. Like, And then you get in a situation also where some of these retailers like us own brands. So now I have a vested interest, right? So Wana is part of our Canopy family. So if I can sell Wana and they already have a ratio that I know works, do I have to bring that in from another vendor?
Exactly.
I don't
Like, do you need
know.
a
And
sleep gummy from every single gummy manufacturer in the state, or do you just need one a sleep gummy?
and again, like there's different taste profiles, there's different price points, like there are nuances, but in general, how many sleep gummies do you need on a menu? And at some point, I would argue there are diminishing returns, and you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
spending your money on all these different things. And then are you even creating brand loyalty and a positive experience for the customer? Well, maybe not, because maybe they liked the pear flavor and the pear flavor sold through, and now you have the watermelon flavor. Well, maybe if you only had pear and watermelon and not 80, however many different flavors, it would be easier to stay in stock on the one. So I think constantly reevaluating and cutting SKUs is really a part of the formula, and making sure that, and that doesn't mean you can't bring a SKU back, right? But it's like, oh, I cut this SKU. Oh, well, now they dropped their price, or now they're gluten free, or now, right? You have all of these
Yeah.
nuances. But I think everybody is over SKU'd, us included. I mean, and we have cut so much. Um, and the other big challenge is that we're still relying on this indica sativa hybrid categorization. And I can't wait for someone to buck the trend. Like, I cannot wait for someone strong enough in their convictions to take a chance, right? And I don't think we're there yet, and I don't blame
Yeah.
anyone. And we're not selling that way, right? So it's not like I'm standing on this,
Yeah,
like,
we just launched a feature that shows indica sativa hybrid mix within a product line, and the whole time we were building it, we were like, this doesn't matter.
but you have to, because that's the way we're buying, right?
Exactly.
And that is the reality, right? Like being able to see something by indica hybrid and sativa is the way people are shopping. But everyone, going back to the like of the industry and where it started and patience and all of those things, like we all know that it's not about indica sativa hybrid. We know that it's about terpenes and,
Mhm.
like, and the full
Ratios.
flower profile and
Yep.
all of those things. But those things are really confusing. So how do you teach them to customers, especially since I just said, I think we're too focused on connoisseurs? Like, how do you make that easy? And I do think that moving away from those words that mean nothing is in the long term going to serve us well as an industry, because we're almost teaching people to use the wrong words, like, and we're
Yes.
doubling down on that sort of incorrect, so that now someone's going to be like, oh, well, I'm totally a sativa girl, and it's like, well, maybe not, maybe you're just like a liming girl or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
and oh, well, I want a sativa leaning hybrid, like, and then you're just like, what does that even mean? Like, but if you say, I want something for sleep, but I'm really anxious, so like, I'll use my Wana product names, right? Like, stay asleep and fall asleep. Like, you don't need to have a pharmaceutical or a cannabis, horticultural background to understand the difference. Well, there must be something different in these, like the one that makes me fall asleep and the one that makes me
Yep.
stay asleep. Um, so I think our terminology is confusing, which is exacerbated by how many SKUs we have on the menu.
Yeah. And it so to that point, right? Like, so there's two tensions I want to get at here with this problem. Because I totally agree. We see it in the data, like stores that have 1,000, maybe 2,000 SKUs that they've gone through in the last 90 days. Like, it's insane, right? So two tensions that I want to talk about. So one is the tension of my competitor down the street, though, has that. And I can see that in headset. I can see that when I go onto their menu, right? And my bud tenders told me that a customer came in the store, asked for it, and we didn't have it, and that customer left, right? So that's what I would call the FOMO tension. Oh, that got caught, right? Let me
Totally.
label that as the FOMO tension. So let's start with that. How do you resolve that? How do you respond to that need? And particularly, I mean, you're dealing with like 3 states, 4 states, 11 stores, like all that dynamic. Like, how do you resolve that?
I mean, I think there has to be a way, and Happy Buyer doesn't do it yet, but I'm sure we're on our way to categorize SKUs, right? So that you're really saying like, and that's assortment planning, right? So you're saying, okay, how many sleep SKUs do I have? And then you run down all the formats and you're like, okay, well, I want a tincture that's a sleep SKU, an edible that's a sleep SKU, right? And how is it sleep? Is it sleep because it says sleep in the name, or is it sleep because it's indica? And then you're gonna, then you get your other problem sort of conflates your FOMO. But I think ensuring bud tenders understand how to get something convert a customer from A to B, and what makes those products similar or different, and why don't you carry that product anymore. And that's almost impossible with the breadth of SKUs that we currently have, right? And so for me, for it to get from my brain when I'm sitting and being like, we don't need this sleep SKU, I'm not going to buy it anymore, to then get to, my director of retail to communicate to the store teams, to then communicate, right, to communicate to the store
Yeah,
managers who are then
downwards
going
into
to
the SOP. You know what I mean? We don't
exactly.
have that, but I mean, you see this in sophisticated traditional retail, right? Oh, we
Yeah,
don't have that, but this is what it is. When I go into Benjamin Moore and I ask for a paint color, they reroute me like boom, exactly over to the paint color, right?
exactly. And I think we live in this space of cannabis being like, because it still has some negative connotations, because we're still working on legalization, because there are so many hoops, we believe traditionally that we need to go so far out of our way to make it easy for the customer, but we're doing ourselves a disservice. Like, we
Yeah.
think we're making it better by having all these options, but again, this is my
Yeah.
philosophy. We're actually making it more complicated.
Oh, 100%.
Um,
And
and
we're
again,
losing
and then there
differentiation. You know what I
totally, and
mean?
there can be lost leaders, and there can be moments that it's about marketing and like, oh, I'm going to sell this, like it's going to be Cinco de Mayo, so I'm going to sell the taco strain. Like, there's always moments that you're telling stories, right? But what is going to enable you to get the most customers in, serviced, happy, leave, and come back? And we think that that's giving them exactly what they're asking for, versus saying, listen, we are the cannabis experts. You're the you expert, but we're the cannabis experts. Try this. Like, right. And then there should be a way that that customer is able to rate that product, keep it in their profile, and know, you know what? They gave me SKU A, B, C, and D. I hated the taste, but I loved the effect. So that person should be able to make that note, come back. It shows up in their file, and then you say, oh, I see you tried SKU A, B, C, and D, and that you didn't love the flavor, but you loved the effect. How about trying this again? Like,
Hmm.
we can be concierges again. Back to that sort of like expert piece, like that's what happens when you go into a liquor store. Like, how
Yeah.
many times do you walk, and I make the liquor analogy. It is imperfect, but it is the best analogy that we have, right? Like, there are not wine connoisseurs are not, I mean, they may also be walking into wine stores, but that's not what makes alcohol work. What makes alcohol work is that at some level, every single person can understand it and can approach it, right? Oh, champagne is this, and beer is this, and
Yeah.
tequila is this, or whatever the case may be. And if I walk into a wine store, I may say, oh, I want a Sancerre. But that sommelier, let's just say it is a sommelier, not like a 23-year-old,
Yeah. The
stoner.
Trader Joe's told me yay.
Exactly, is going to be like, actually, what makes Sancerre, and I'm going to totally make this up because I'm not your
Yeah.
alcohol girl, right? But like, oh, what makes Sancerre amazing is that it's cured in these oak barrels, blah, 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 and it's the finish. And you know what? This Chardonnay is called a Chardonnay, and you think you don't want a Chardonnay, but I'm telling
But
you,
it
it
has
is
the
going to be
profile.
delicious. Take it and come back and tell me if you don't like it. I want to know if, again, it's that relationship, right? It's the
Yeah.
like, I want to know, and I want to fix it for you. So I want you to come back and be like, so I had that Chardonnay that you said wasn't Chardonnay. It was to me. And then the store to be able to take full responsibility and say, all right, let's try something else. And like, then your profile sort of marked with a big X, like, do not give this person Chardonnay. And we
Yeah.
don't have that level of CRM. We don't have that level of, dedicated bud tenders, the turnover.
SOPs even,
We don't have
like what to
SOPs.
say. Yeah.
And it's impossible because we have too many SKUs. Like, it all comes back to that. How can you have someone be an expert on hundreds of SKUs that change all the time?
So to that point, right? Like, and I would describe this as like the how tension, right? Like 100%. And I think then you realize folks are there, right? Where they realize this normally at a strategic level or maybe at a junior buying level. But then because of what we talked about earlier, like you might not know how to implement, particularly when when you just described, which is like in order to implement this correctly, we need the bud tenders, like we need all this stuff, right? Where do you start when you're looking at it from your perspective, right? Where do you start when you're looking and thinking like this is where at least to begin on a SKU reduction process, understanding it's going to take time to train how to actually interact with customers in a more SKU limited way.
At its core, you have to rely on the data, right? So, like, as I think I said before, like, I am constantly reevaluating the SKUs that are not selling. Now, doesn't mean I'm not going to bring them back. Doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity for them. And evaluating them doesn't mean I'm just willy nilly cutting them, right? But I am saying, like, okay, I haven't sold one unit of this SKU in 30 days. Like,
Yeah.
30 days. Like, and I want to look at that and I want to be like, why? And then there may be, oh, well, you know what? It wasn't moved to sellable. So that's why I didn't sell it. Well, I certainly don't want to not carry that SKU anymore because we didn't properly manage our inventory. That's not a good answer. So, like,
Yeah.
okay, now we need an SOP to address that, right? So it's also like peeling back the layers of the onion to understand why things aren't working, right? Or it's mispriced, right? Because we have this, we're all inputting them in our catalogs, we're inputting them ourselves. That, is there an MSRP? Is there not an MSRP? We could debate that conversation for a long time. Right. So on so many levels, we make it and it is so complicated, right? But I'm constantly just, what have we not touched? Why have we not touched it? What are my worst sellers? And is there a reason for being that they should remain? And I put that ownership a lot on my wholesale sales reps, right? When someone approaches me and says, I want to, you should carry our brand. I have the same response. And anyone who's listening that's like, a part of my team is going to laugh because I say it ad nauseum. First of all, I'm not buying your product dollar for dollar under any circumstances. So don't come to me and tell me, like, it's off the table. I will partner with you. I will work with you. I will ensure we consistently order. I will try to increase our purchasing, but I will never, unless high on a hill, they tell me I have to, I am never, which, I think I've convinced them that that's not the path to be successful. I think is I'm not going to go, I'm not going to spend 10 grand a month just because you spent 10 grand and you have 18 stores in one state and I have 11 in three, and one of those states you don't even sell in, right? Like, for example. So I make the onus has to be on the wholesale salesperson to tell me why I need it. And then I'm going to proof it out. So my first thing, anytime someone comes and says, hey, you should buy this line, I say, great, my menu's online. You can see every single detail of my menu. Please tell me how these SKUs are different, how they augment my assortment, and what I like and why I should bring them on. And you would be astonished at the number of salespeople who are like, who don't want to do that. Like, oh God,
Don't want to
right.
work.
And so sometimes you're just like, all right, that's easy, like, done. And I say the same things to my bud tenders because they're the ones who are my store managers because they're like, oh, down the street has blah, blah, blah. What are we, how come we don't have blah, blah, blah? It's like, whoa. What, whether it's price point, good, better, best, whether it's category, whether it's flavoring, like whatever, right? Because the other complicated thing is like, it's sort of these three axes. It's not
The
singular,
matrix.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm like, but why? What is it replacing on our menu or who is it serving that isn't otherwise served? And sometimes it's like, well, it's just cheaper. Like, again, that's why it's like, it is this matrix of sort of like flavor, when it's 3D and there's all these different
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
But I think, again, sort of just like back to the crux of the question, you have to continually cut SKUs. You have to. And even
Mhm.
better, continually cut brands, right? Because the brands are taking up part of your screen
Mhm.
share. Like physically, you go to a kiosk and you get to have all of these brands. And
Mhm.
so it's also complicated. Like, wait a minute, I want to buy this brand from this vendor, but I only want to buy that brand from that vendor, not their whole catalog. And so
Yes.
that discipline is also something that we're trying to implement, right? Which is to say, and then how do you do that with a minimum? How do you do that? And is it worth it if it's only one category?
Yeah, like
And
if
I
their
think it
minimum
is.
doesn't make sense, then like it doesn't make sense, right? Like,
But that's where relationships and conversations, and hey, I understand your ideal minimum is 2,500 a door. Can you give me a month to get there, right? And can we see how well it does? Or charge me a delivery fee. I don't want it. I certainly am going to argue against it, but I would rather pay a modest delivery fee than take on product that I don't need.
because it's more
it's not worth
expensive.
it.
Because it's a lot more expensive.
A lot more expensive. $60 delivery fee for each store versus four extra cases. I
Yeah.
mean, the math is
Tens
there.
of
Like
thousands of
it's
dollars
yes,
potentially.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a problem all the way down the supply chain because now I need vault space. I right like there's no vault space for a delivery charge, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's annoying and it certainly shouldn't be the way we want to do business as a best in class organization, but sometimes it's the right formula. I want to try it. I'll overpay to bring it in to test it. And again, I think we are locked in a lot of old models that are like, well, I'll never pay a delivery fee. Like, I mean, really?
Yeah.
Like,
Like
sure, I
I'm
don't
willing
want
to like
to.
hit the minimum and have 60 days of this despite the fact I own net 30 terms, then like
And so that by definition, to your point, like, right. So I want to turn my inventory fast and efficiently. And I'm willing to take some risks to do that, but I want them to be as calculated as possible. And some things you don't know, like how much inventory do I need going into 420? Nobody knows.
you don't
No,
know.
no offense. Nobody knows, right?
Nobody knows. People were like 420 was great last year, and it's like, yeah, it was on a Friday.
Exactly, right? It's like, oh, and then, oh, well, it's on a Monday, and what does it mean? And then right, like all the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think menu management, SKU management, brand management, like again, that assortment planning piece is not something we really, and I'm generalizing, but I think is not something that cannabis has perfected or focused on. And
Yeah.
instead, it's a more is better, more is better. And it's ultimately doing a
Or
disservice to the customer.
it dies on the implementation, right? Because of reciprocity, because of no way to
The
like
R
manage
word.
it down to the buyer, right? Because you aren't actually cutting all these extra brands. So you can have the greatest assortment strategy in the world,
Yeah.
right? But without tools, techniques, and like process to implement, it's just dead on arrival, essentially.
1,000%. A
You know.
thousand percent. And like, and I think back to the beginning of the conversation we had, which was sort of like, it's this junior, role in cannabis.
Mhm.
It's like you have someone who's dealing typically with one state. All they're doing is looking at their state, right? And so where I envision the world of buying in cannabis going, again, like back to fashion, like the buying office is like the most senior. I mean, they're part of the executive leadership team, right? Like they're
Yep.
like, wait a minute, what's our merchandising strategy? What's our pricing strategy? That's what retail is. And we don't typically in the industry look at that,
No.
and so I think that there are buyers that are doing the math and in the weeds, if you will, right, of the detail, understanding product lines and and then there's someone who's looking at the big picture and having conversations. And again, reciprocity, I think it's garbage, but it is part of how this industry works to date. And you have to at least recognize it and have those conversations. And so the relationships, the give and take, the let's try something, the what can what kind of discount can you give me? Like all of those things. And I don't think it's possible for even the most sophisticated 25-year-old new buyer to do all of those things
No.
well. It's just not.
It's just, and then that's why it's a function. It's not a human. it's a function, right? And
It
like it's
that's exactly right. It's not like and right and for now or for a while it was like I don't know, it's Beryl, right? And it's like wait. Like there's no way that I'm going to get all of the nuance in multiple states in multiple right. Like even I mean in Ohio we're talking about changing from tenths to eighths. Like that is an entire thing to manage. Like that in and of itself is a project that in a sophisticated retail organization, someone would lead that change. What's the right pricing strategy? Are we going to have both on the shelf? Who do we want to launch with? Et cetera, et cetera, et
experimentation.
cetera.
Yeah, exactly. How do we
And it'll
validate?
and it's going to end up being a bloodbath because it's just a race. It's a race to do it, right? And we'll get to a place where being thoughtful will benefit. It's getting there. It really is getting there, right? There
Yeah.
are executives that are VPs of buying and planning. Like it is getting there. And that's what's exciting. And I mean, that's why I'm still here, right? Because I see it and I want to be a part of that. And it in fashion. It is what it is, right? And so like that is also the reality. Like I left that world that was very, this is what you do and this is how you do it. I like the entrepreneurial nature of it. I like the hot mess of it.
Yeah.
Like we all have to admit that if we're here
Yeah.
still, we do. So, but let's still work on making it better, right? Let's not throw our hands up and be like, well, I don't know, it's
I
cannabis.
can't deal with it because of the tax. That's it.
Right. It's just a mess. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, okay,
exactly.
well, that's no good. So I don't know. Those are some of my thoughts.
That was awesome. That was great. I think we're gonna move. We got like 13 minutes left, so move it a little bit into the Q&A. There's been a ton of chatter on the chat
Been
while we've
loving
been
it.
talking. Um,
Hope
and
that wasn't
yeah,
distracting.
A few times I was like, stop looking, Beryl, between
I
like all
know.
the thing. I was like, did you see me? I was like, oh no, don't.
Yes, yes. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, we do have some good questions in here. In order of how they came, and I got them through multiple channels. So, um, the first question we have is, I completely agree with the over assortment issue, but how do you find the optimal unique SKUs per category or subcategory? Beryl, could you describe the process you followed to find this optimal assortment?
I think there is a fair amount of trial and error at this point because I do think each store location, right? Like a store on the border, for example, a border store is going to be able to sell more SKUs, a larger variety than a store that is highly penetrated environment, right? So right, so like who are you, what is your store, and what is your value proposition? And I'm going to go talk about it in terms of good old retail, which is the world I know best, right? Why do you walk into a Nordstrom versus a Bloomingdale's versus a Neiman Marcus? Now, each of those things, if you happen to be a retail person, all of those names brought something to your brain, right? Like to me, Nordstrom is customer service. Bloomingdale's is the most fashiony, right? They're going to have the trends
Mhm.
that are going to turn over, and Neiman Marcus is going to be the luxury expensive. Now, there are, of course, that iterate on that. I'm generalizing, but like right now, I don't think any stores have those personas. I think we're just a store. We're a store that sells a lot, right? Like we sell weed, right? Well, do we want the best customer service? Do we want the fastest transaction time? Is our goal we want to get you in and out? Is our goal
Yeah.
to, always be in stock on a key product or to introduce you to new products? Like, and
Mhm.
I think as we evolve, there is going to have to be a brand identity for each store. In lieu of that, how do you do it? You need to have a maximum, like, right? Like, you have to, I take a step back and say, like, okay, how much volume is this category or subcategory doing? And I don't want something that's going to sell 10 units, even if it's a loss leader. Okay. I don't want something that's going to sell 10 units. 10 units is not worth my time. It's not 10
Mhm.
units, let's say a month. Okay. 10 units a month is not worth my time,
Mhm.
right? The amount of time that it's going to take to cut that PO, to get that vendor set up in the system, to plan the promo for that vendor, right? Like, and so some of it is that analysis that I make that's like, okay, this brand is not generating enough sales, but I'm super transparent. So I'll go to that vendor and be like, if we don't increase this velocity, I'm going to drop it. I don't dislike you. I don't hate you. I don't have it out for you, but like, I'm going to drop
Yeah.
this brand. And when you fix some of these problems, come back to me and we'll have a conversation. And I'm always willing to reevaluate, right? But I do try to look at, again, what is the easiest thing to cut is the low hanging fruit. So what is something that is just not, 80-20 rule, like anything that's the bottom 20, sayonara, like I don't need it. And then what becomes, and I even think, it's really 20% of your SKUs that are doing 80% of your volume, right? And like, so how do you flip it and how do you understand? Because I want the most max, depending on what my store identity is, but based on my current role in the Botanist, I want the things that are going to sell at a velocity that makes the juice worth the squeeze, right? And I know people are coming in. I know people know what CBN is now. So I want to be able to sell something that says CBN. Well, how many of them do I need? Well, how many units did I sell? And what makes sense as I go through it. So like I look a lot at category and subcategory. I also look at bottom 20 and I'm constantly like, these are on the chopping blocks. Like I have a report that I run monthly from BDSA that's entitled SKUs to Kill. Literally. That's what they're, I mean, it's my own report. Like right? Like, and so anytime I forward it to someone, I'm like, ignore the crude title of this report, but like
so violent.
I know. And I'm like, actually not like, yeah, it is, but I'm just like done. Like, because it will distract you. It will distract you from a successful retail environment, which is I want things that are going to, unless my store identity is to be a boutique or to be a place of, discovery, which is different. But right now, what all of us are is how do we get the most volume through? And you have to take risks on new product. You can't just sell the Juanas, Caminas, Grunes of the world. Like, that's not the right strategy. And Wilds of the world, that's not the right strategy. Right. Don't want to forget my Wild. Sorry, guys. But I have the conversation all the time. Okay, well, if I have the big guys, how many small brands do I have room for? Mm-hmm. And it depends on the velocity, on the volume, and how important that category is to the store.
So we got some follow-up questions as you were talking through, because obviously this is a very engaging topic. And so while we have some earlier questions that came in, I'm going to tackle these first while we're on the topic. What velocity of units per day is your cutoff for dropping?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it depends. Again, like I like to look at it in comparison to everything else, right? So, but if something is selling, I'll keep something that's selling 1 unit a day as long as it's selling 1 unit a day consistently. And again, I'm not paid to be a plug for Happy Cabbage, but or Happy Buyer, but I do like those metrics are now more visible to me than they ever were. So now I can at least say some of those things, right? But I think it's the bottom 20, whatever your business is doing. It's the bottom 20% is the easy target. I would say it could maybe even be more, but I think you're safe to always focus on the bottom 20 and constantly be like, here are the X amount of SKUs that fall in my bottom 20. Do I need them? And if you're constantly doing that, you are doing better than any of your competition of menu health. And that doesn't take that much time. And I think you have to do it monthly because the strains change, things are changing so fast. I think it has to be monthly. If you do it quarterly, you're dead. Things change too fast in this industry for that.
Following up on that, do you target an optimal mix of price brands per the highest demand subcategories as well? Like, for example, 3.5 grams of flour equals 60% budget, 20% mid-range, 20% premium. I'm sure this also varies by store, but it'd be helpful to understand your general approach.
Yeah. So I think, again, it would be helpful and it would be easier if each store had its persona. And I don't think we're at a place yet that, that the fancy person shops at this store and it's just
then you would know the mix. Yeah. That you
exactly.
need.
It's like, this is the closest dispensary. Here we go. But see some chatter. I want to make sure I get the question right. Did I screw up
Yeah,
the
it was
question?
actually, it was an optical mix of price bands per the highest demand subcategories, not price brands. I just misread it. But I
I
think you understood the
actually,
concept just fine.
yes,
Yeah.
I actually think too many options at the cheapest price point is your worst nightmare, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what most people want, the cheapest, right? Like that's just the reality that based on today's economy, based on right all of these things, right? So I think the opening price point actually, I mean, it should be juicy because that's what people are coming in for. But if you're over skewed at that opening price point, no one is ever going to move to the
Yeah.
higher price band because they have every single option that they could ever want in the lower price band. So, yes, I mean, I'm a big believer in bands. The bands change over time, right? The bands start really like expensive in a new market and then there's more competition and then those bands compress. But yes, I mean, I bare minimum everything has three tiers in my brain just because you know in a perfect world I think there's four, but like that can get overly complicated since we're already talking about so many. Again, that matrix is 3D already, so if you add so
Right.
many more things, but I think opening price point, you know, medium, and then you know splurge or whatever you want to call it, good, better, best, however you want to call it. I think we typically think that the opening price point band has to have the biggest assortment, and that actually is incorrect because then people won't
Yeah.
ever buy
Because
things
then
that
they
are
go
more
over like
expensive.
choice means value. Like I have a lot of choices. I'm not going off price, right? As
Exactly.
much.
I
Yeah.
could already try the lemonade one and the one and the gluten-free one and the chocolate
Yeah,
one,
exactly.
whatever, all the things. Why do I have to spend more money?
Yeah. And
So
you're
yes, I
training your
mean,
customers. You're like, you can't really train somebody on you being a value option and then you move your prices up. Yeah.
so hopefully that addressed the question. I
Yeah.
have a tendency of chatting it up. So hopefully
No, it's all
that
No,
good.
you're
It's all
totally good.
good.
This is great.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to other questions. How do you view accessories? Are they business opportunities? Do they drive revenue? Do they help with brand building, or are they just distractions because there's already too much to talk about?
all of the above. I think I again, I think a lot of it does come back to who do you want to be as a retailer. Now, I do think to be the one stop shop for someone who wants to consume. So like, oh, I'm traveling, I'm in a place that's not mine, I didn't bring my own piece. So either I want an inexpensive piece or I'm only going to buy pre-rolls or whatever the story is. I do think accessories are important. I actually saw on here my friend Ruben, who represents some accessories. I believe in the accessory category. With that said, I don't think we do it very well. And because it is not making us a ton of money, Ruben, hi, because it is not making us a ton of money because we don't do it well, it continues to be sort of on the bottom part of it begins to get pushed down in terms of the priority
Yeah.
list.
Right.
And Ruben and I are working on what is the required assortment, and I want the same assortment in every single store, and I want it to be displayed in the same exact way. But again, how do
Mhm.
you do that if each state has different regulations, each this, each that, right? So I think there are so many ways to simplify it. I also think, and we don't do this well. So again, this is something that I've been preaching, you know, within my own organization, is the idea that if you're then going to sell a lighter or you're then going to sell a tray, why aren't you branding it? Right. And I think that's like, it's like
Yeah.
that is where the accessories have value. And someone just popped up something on Smoke Shop. Like, yeah, I mean, we're not going to compete with smoke shops in terms of depth and breadth of their assortment, right?
Or even
They
tax
move
rate.
Yeah.
all of the above, you know? And so how do we make sure there's a reason for being? What is the base level of accessories that people need in order to walk out and actually put that thing to good use? And then there's the pretty shiny, fun things that maybe you just have one in the store and, you know, oh, well, I want a volcano because it looks pretty on my shelf and no one's really ever going to buy it. And when they buy it, you know what? I got five in my warehouse and I'll push another one out. I didn't push five into my store. I pushed one into my store or two into my store.
Yeah.
And then there are times that that's not the right strategy, right? Because sometimes it's like, well, I want more because I'm going to make a moment out of it, right? So it's not to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that it's always the same, but I think accessories are important. I think in general we buy too many, right? I think that someone who's looking to roll a joint, sure, they may have a preference about a king cone or a Blazy Susan, but are they really not going to buy the cone that we have?
yeah.
Right? Like I do ask myself those questions, especially as a pretty picky consumer, right? Like when I'm walking in and I'm saying I need a cone, sure, I'd love it to be cute. But like at the end of the day, like,
Yeah.
and I'd love it to have little, four-leaf clovers in honor of St. Patrick's Day.
When they
And,
have the prints, yes.
like I want those. And when I sell out of them, I still need a core that I can sell every single day and not walk that customer. So I
Yeah.
think it's that sort of like, what are those base levels? And then what's the icing on the top
Yeah.
that's pretty for my emails, cute for my display cases that make a difference, but do not drive revenue. But
Yeah.
I do believe we need accessories, and I think branding them is where you can, right, is also where they add value, because then someone has a lighter that says the Botanist, but they may be lighting their Miss Grass joint with a Botanist lighter. How else are they going to remember that it came from the Botanist,
It's great. Yeah.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I used to,
That's the smart move.
when my entrepreneurial, my company that I started, we stickered every single product that came from another brand with a P sticker. And so you would remember, the intention was you would remember where you bought that product, because none of that product, I didn't manufacture any of it. It didn't say the business's name on it. It didn't say Beryl on it. It didn't, right? Because you're buying products from other people and you're selling them. And so again, I think, like, how do we build that relationship with the customer? And I think accessories are an opportunity to build that relationship with that customer, even though they're not going to make a ton of money. I think they're important.
Yeah. 100%.
We do you have another couple minutes for remaining Q&A, or do you need a bounce?
Yeah, if anyone on here is from my team, I'll join the 420 planning call in a few minutes. You can keep going.
I
We
love
can
that.
keep
All right.
going for a minute or two. Yeah.
Okay. So regarding the careful curation of SKUs
See,
and
I'll let them know. Thanks, Jer.
appreciate you, dude.
Exactly.
We're just holding her hostage for a little bit longer. Regarding the careful curation of SKUs and brands, how do you see this applying to vendors? It's always a challenge to maintain variety without overloading retail partners and consumers. You said earlier in this discussion that over ordering SKUs tends to cause a problem that goes down the entire supply chain. And we've talked with Apex Trading about the problem of over ordering often leading to brands overproducing and them wanting to maintain their production levels to demand, right? And not end up with warehouses
They're
full
getting
of shit.
false
They have to,
signals.
yep, and buy backing, doing a lot of buyback or reciprocity deals. So anyway, curious to learn your opinion about this. And I also just wanted to slightly applaud you on what you said about negotiating with vendors and sharing that data, because a lot of people, I think, do feel, I don't know, some kind of way about doing that, but you're actually doing a service to these vendors by sharing that data back to them, which I think speaks to this, like how badly they want to curate to demand, right? So
Yeah.
anyway,
Wait, Brad, what's the question?
sorry, regarding just the careful curation of SKUs and brands, how do you see this
Yeah.
applying to vendors?
Like, what feedback would you give to a
Yeah,
vendor given the
I
fact
mean,
that they want to try to have as much variety?
I'm super transparent. Like I pull up my dashboards, I share my screen. So I have monthly touch bases with almost every single vendor, right? And that is what I spend most of my time doing. Like when my kids are home from school, they're like, "Do you just talk all day long?" I'm like, "Pretty much," but I show the data. Like numbers are powerful, right? So it's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I can't place you another order. I'm sitting on, 96 days on hand." Like, okay, what can
yeah,
we do to? And so I want to focus the conversation on what can we do to fix that? Because I'm not saying, "Oh, you stink," like get out of here, but like, okay, have we been promotional? Did we lose the promotional strategy? Did it fall off the calendar? Well, last time we promoted you, were you up against brands that did too much of the same thing? So that's another thing that I do. I have buckets not only of like products and categories and subcategories, like who do I not like? I don't need to put GTI, Ascend, and Verano all on sale the same week. That doesn't make any sense. They're all big brands with multiple big companies with multiple brands, multi-category, multi-price point. I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm not going to see any lift, right? So, okay, these guys I want to sprinkle out. Same with, I always use my edible example. I don't want to discount, Gruen Wild, Camino, and Wana the same week. That does me no good. So I think trying to
Yeah.
like break things into chunks and understand, but I show data all the time because I think some buyers are like, sure, I'll take it in, right? But I'm held accountable to KPIs and I want them to know what those KPIs are so that it's not like, well,
Hmm.
Beryl didn't take in my order. It's like, no, 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 no. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't sell. And it is my job to get the right product to the right place at the right time. And if it's not selling, I can't buy more of it. So what are we going to do? You're going to give me a discount? We're going to move through it. You're going to do some pop-ups. What are we going to do? You're going
Yeah.
to run a spark, right? Like we all have the
Yeah.
same things in our toolkit, right? Like that's the toolkit. And we do need to expand it and we do need to work on it. But right now, that's it. So it's like, it takes me 5 minutes to run through the list. What of these options are you going to give me? And a good vendor partner is going to respond accordingly and be like, let's try this. And if it doesn't work, then I'll do this. And then we talk about it next month. Hey, here
Yeah.
we are. This is what we did, and constantly sort of
Yeah.
reevaluating.
Yeah.
Rock and roll. I think that's some good stuff there.
That's
And
what I got.
yeah, no, that's great. With that, I will close us out here. Beryl, it's been awesome having you on. I'll actually kind of want to do this again because I feel like there's so much more we could. There were a lot of side quests we could have gone down during this stream, this podcast. But if you have some follow-up questions and you want to reach out, hope you're okay with me just putting your email on blast like this, Beryl. But reach out to Beryl,
It's
ask her
all
some
good.
follow-up questions. She's a wealth of knowledge. And if you also want to see the kinds of gains Beryl has achieved at the Botanist at your stores, reach out to us at Happy Cabbage. You can email Andrew directly if you like, or check us out for our free inventory audit or our 14-day free trial and see what you think. Beryl, thank you so much for joining, and for all
Thank
the
you
extra
guys.
time. And
Yes,
yes,
of course.
thank you
Oh my
everybody for the
goodness.
lively chats
Sorry.
and all the questions. So no, it's all good. We will see you on the next one.
Thanks,
Bye,
y'all.
everybody. Thank you.